When you're given an unexpected question, something that you absolutely have no idea about, your surroundings suddenly feel like they're floating. Your heart starts racing because what am I supposed to answer? And the people's faces in front of you suddenly become so clear. And you start feeling that they're judging you, thinking, how does he not know that? You want to run away, but that would be even more embarrassing. So you just say whatever comes to your mind and then you get stuck. You no longer know how to proceed or even how to end your answer. Then you start saying sorry abruptly without even ending it properly. Almost all of us have gone through this at some point in our lives. Maybe it was when a professor suddenly called you for an unexpected oral recitation about something you didn't study or something you weren't even told was going to happen. Or maybe it was during a job interview when the HR interviewer suddenly asked you, looking at the company's vision and mission, which of the values listed here do you think you can contribute the most? And then you freeze because you didn't even read their vision and mission. If you've experienced any of this, then you came to the right person because I've been there. I've gone through countless situations where my classmates would laugh at me because I forgot my memorized speech, or I would randomly laugh because apparently that was my coping mechanism whenever I completely blacked out. And somehow I went from that to doing pageants, answering Q&As, and eventually being invited to speak in front of people without my lips turning pale from nervousness. So today I'm going to share with you everything that I wish someone had told me from the very beginning. Things that I had to research, observe, practice, and study for hundreds, even thousands of hours from different mentors and resources so that you don't have to go through all of that alone. In this conversation, I'm going to help you learn how to answer unexpected questions without rambling or freezing. So just sit there, take out your notes if you want to, listen, relax, and take your time. I got you. I've divided this conversation into different chapters, which you'll see on the screen. You can also pause this video whenever you need to digest something a little bit longer. Take your time, go at your own pace, no pressure. So first, let's understand why your brain suddenly seems to stop working the moment you get caught off guard, and why bringing your answer back to your own experiences can actually help you get unstuck. You see, when someone throws a question at you, your brain tries to do a lot at the same time. You're trying to understand the question, think of something intelligent, remember what you know, and at the same time, you're worrying about how you look and whether you're being judged. That's a lot. And there's actually a scientific reason for this. Your working memory is basically your brain's temporary workspace. It helps you hold information while you're actively thinking. But that workspace is limited. So when you're nervous, you're not only answering the question, you're also managing your anxiety, monitoring yourself, remembering what you're about to say, and wondering your answer sounds smart. It's like your brain suddenly has too many tabs open. And before you know it, nothing. Your mind goes completely blank. But here's where personal experience becomes very powerful. Instead of forcing your brain to create a perfect answer from scratch, you give it something it already knows. If I ask you what is resilience, you might freeze. You might go, oh, okay, so resilience is being able to overcome. Basically, resilience is when sorry, I don't know how to explain it. Resilient. You're trying to find the perfect definition, sound intelligent, and make sure you're saying the right things all at once. But now let me change the question. Tell me about a time when you had to keep going even though you wanted to give up. Suddenly you have something. You remember that semester, that competition, that failure. And instead of searching for the perfect solution, you can simply say, for me, resilience is something I learned when I was preparing for a competition. There was a point where I wanted to stop, but I kept showing up and practicing. And eventually I realized that resilience isn't about never wanting to give up. Sometimes it's just simply choosing to continue even when you do. Notice the difference? The first answer was trying to sound like you understand resilience. The second one was showing that you understand it because you lived it. You're not creating from zero. You're retrieving something you already lived. And when you're under pressure, your body can also activate its stress response, or what we commonly call fight or flight. Your heart beats faster, your breathing changes, your muscle tense. That's why you can know something perfectly well in your room and then completely forget it when someone puts a microphone in front of you. You didn't suddenly become stupid. Your brain is simply trying to manage thinking, and stress at the same time. So instead of forcing yourself to sound intelligent, give your brain something familiar, your own experience, your own memories, your own observations. Because you are the world's leading expert on your own life, and that gives you something incredibly valuable: ground. Now, even though personal experience is very powerful, there's one important catch. Your story can actually hurt your answer if you don't know what point you're trying to make. And that brings us to the theme anchor. A theme anchor is simply a 1 to 3 word headline or value that you say at the beginning of your answer before you tell the story. Think of it like a GPS destination. When you jump straight into a story, like when you were asked, do you think everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect regardless of their background? Well, back then when I was in high school, there was this classmate named Mark. And then he told something about me, and then we went to the principal's office. And then after that, wait, what was I talking about again? And suddenly you're somewhere completely different. But if you start with, this comes down to human dignity. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of who they are or where they came from. When I was in high school, there was this classmate named Mark. Now we know where you're going. And now when you're telling the story about what happened with Mark, the audience knows why you're telling it. You're not just telling us what happened, you're showing us a moment that taught you something about dignity and respect. Your theme anchor gives you a direction and gives the listener a reason to care about the story. So before you tell the story, ask yourself, what is the one thing this answer is really about? That becomes your anchor.
Soji Bill.
Now, like in the famous pageant Q&A video, what if you get asked, what is Soji Bill?
Soji Bill. I believe that Soji Bill is nakapaloob yung mga pangangailangan natin, like in our house, schools, and our community. We are also using our bills.
What if you're in her position and your mind also goes completely blank? Not because you're nervous, but because you genuinely have zero idea what Soji even stands for. Just for context, Soji stands for sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. The Soji equality proposals in the Philippines are generally anti-discrimination measures. So if someone asks you about the Soji bill, they're essentially asking for your understanding or position on an anti-discrimination measure, not whether you know anything about utility bills. And that's why this example is so useful. It's not really about making fun of someone for getting nervous. The bigger problem is that if you don't even know what the term means, you have no factual foundation to build your answer on. Please don't fake knowledge. Pivot. I call this the sensory emotional reaction pivot. In simple words, when you don't know the term, talk about what you do understand. You might not know the technical details of a policy, but you understand things like safety, fairness, dignity, responsibility, and progress. So instead pretending that you know the policy, acknowledge what you don't know and connect the topic to something human that you genuinely understand. For example, while I may not be familiar with the technical details in the proposal, my immediate reaction is that every citizen deserves to feel safe, respected, and valued. You're not pretending. You're finding solid ground. And that is better than just throwing words around that you don't even understand just to sound intelligent. Now let's bring this into everyday life. Whether you're in a class, whether you're getting a job interview, or whether you're simply having a conversation. When you get hit with a surprise question, you can experience two different reactions. At the very top, we have the same starting point, unexpected question. And from there, your response can go into different directions of reactions. On this side, you have true intuition. This is when your brain recognizes something from your own lived experience. Maybe you've been in a similar situation before. Maybe you've seen something like this happen. You don't have to force answer. You just need to recognize something that you already know. And because you're not fighting to manufacture an answer, your body can feel more grounded and calm. And your speech becomes steadier. So now it's more natural, it sounds more like you. But then there's this other side, which is reactive anxiety. So this is when the question doesn't feel like question anymore. So it feels like we are having a threat. So here, your mind goes, what if I get this wrong? What if they think I'm stupid? What if I don't get the perfect answer? So now you're not only trying to get the perfect answer, you're also trying to manage the fear of answering it incorrectly. So your body becomes tense, your thoughts becomes urgent, and suddenly you're stuttering, rambling, and completely freezing. So that's the distinction I want you to know about. So as you can see, for the whole picture, one response says, I recognize something here, let me think. The other says, I need to get this right. And once you learn to recognize which one you're experiencing, you can choose how you respond. You are reacting on your own instinct and your own natural responses. So when you're unsure, pause and ask yourself, is this feeling giving me information or is it demanding myself to protect? And I actually kind of learned this from Dr. Gabor Mate. So strong feelings aren't automatically intuition. Sometimes your body is simply remembering an old threat. And that brings us to what you can actually do when your body takes over. When anxiety is intense, telling yourself, just relax, doesn't help. So instead, use something physical and simple. Take a slow exhale, feel your feet on the floor, pause before you speak, then choose one theme anchor. You can think of it as 4 simple steps. Reset, anchor, bridge, and land. Reset your body, anchor your answer with one word or value, bridge into a story, process, or genuine reaction, then land your answer with a clear final sentence. And if your voice shakes, do not apologize for it. Pause, breathe, continue. You don't have to announce to everyone that you're nervous. You're allowed to take a moment. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You do not need to memorize all of this. In fact, trying to memorize every scientific term and every formula would create the exact problem we're trying to avoid. Treat everything we discussed like an iceberg. Science stays underneath. I know we just covered a lot, from brain science to theme anchors to the pivot. Now, this simple framework, you don't have to memorize all those phrases either. That's actually why I made something for you. I put together a free 1-page emergency Q&A cheat sheet with the opening lines, bridge phrases, and ending lines we talked about today, all in one place so you can keep it right on your phone. So if you have an interview or a class recitation, a presentation, or you just want to look at something before you walk into a room, you can grab it for free. Just click the first link in the description to download. And now you really don't need fancy words. You don't need to know everything. You just need something real to say. Because at the end of the day, answering unexpected question isn't about proving that you know everything. It's about showing that even though you don't know what to say yet, you know how to find your way there. I'm glad that you came to me with this. Take care of your mind, take your time, and remember, you don't have to know everything to have something meaningful to say. I'll see you in the next note from Aldrin.